it's time for Measure Twice.
Welcome to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling and Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, countertops, with a showroom now open in Granger right next to C. Kramer Interiors. And Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You could visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. Well, welcome to the rest of your life, gentlemen. Starts in an hour, so let's know. I'm just kidding. I will tell you, though, that I'm seeing, just with the weather change, you see a lot of people like the people I don't ever see, now I see them all the time. They're outside.
Oh,
all the time.
Your neighbors?
Is that what we call them?
Yeah.
I was wondering.
The people in your neighborhood?
I'm like, hey,
who are you? You live around here? Yeah, right next door.
It's really kind of funny. We have a guest coming in at some point in the near future talking about real estate, but it's interesting to see how real estate still, the scarcity in real estate still is holding strong. Houses, you put a house on the market, it sells pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Even now, which is kind of nuts with interest rates and stuff. But do interest rates affect you guys? Have you noticed anything?
Not really.
No. Is that because of how far out in advance you guys have to plan? Do you think that's part of it? Like, it's not an impulse where you have to go immediately get a loan and get this done.
I mean, most of the people that we're working with aren't taking out loans.
Right.
So that's good to hear. I'm sure it's affecting some sectors of building and remodel, but
I would assume that it's affecting some.
Thought you were going to say something.
I was thinking.
Didn't he have that? He was like,
I was thinking. I had a thought, and I thought,
I was going to say,
where am I going to go with this?
I was going to say E.F. Hutton, but nobody would know what I was talking about.
Oh, really? Yeah.
You do.
I do.
Joel doesn't.
No.
When E.F. Hutton speaks,
people listen.
And that was Chris just now. He was like, and we were like, yes, oh, Oracle. Tell us what is going on. Well, but today's show is not interest rates, but hopefully it's interesting.
Oh,
maybe not.
Waiting.
I'm not telling you. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
Have to guess.
No, you guys are psychic a little because off the air you were talking about something that goes along with this. But I was there. Sometimes when you're going to remodel or do something different, you have the choice of refurbishing what you have or going all out, all new. And Joel's like, I'm always refurbishing, but you're not. Sometimes you're adding additions or putting something where it wasn't. That's like all new to me.
Yeah.
But I get the concept of remodeling is refurbishing. You're not getting rid of what you had. But
oh, you're getting rid of a lot.
Yeah. But sometimes you have to make a choice, right? You're going to refurbish or make this better, or you're going to just gut and go all new. And that's a whole different decision process, right? Like obviously it's a different project if you're going all new from refurbishing. But I'm saying to get to the point, you keep something or not, those decisions can be costly, could be emotional, if you want to keep stuff. And not easy, but for us in this room, the easy thing is like, if you inherited furniture from like your parents, they pass away or they move out of their house and they're not using it anymore, and you have this furniture that might be 40 years old. You sell it, and it's nice enough, but it definitely needs to be reupholstered. That's a decision you got to make. And I guess my question is it more expensive in that case to reupholster or buy new? Which is there an economic decision?
I would guess before Chris says anything, I would guess it depends on the quality of the furniture, right?
Well, let's say it's super high quality. Let's say it was top
then
end.
your money ahead to reupholster.
Then your money ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Why? So
Because to replace it with something of comparable quality will cost about a third more than to recover.
So it makes sense. If it's not high quality, obviously, then
It's not. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't
Yeah,
recommend
right.
it
right
because then you could buy something new.
for
But-
that price.
We do a lot of reupholstery, a lot.
That's why I brought it up, because that's something that you guys are doing. Do you ever recommend to, like, I don't know if I'd reupholster this one? Because I mean, I know it's your job to do it, but I'm assuming that sometimes it's like,
I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I recommended they. It would have to be if it wasn't the quality level that they wanted to. That's the only thing I could ever think of. But most of the time, the customers who are using or working with that are recovering have really good frames that they've had for years, and they
Right.
like the way it fits. They like the way it sits. So it's like, well, then don't get new. Let's just recover it.
how does it change though? Like, let's say we're talking about a couch, or let's just talk about, like, if you had a nice chair, an ottoman, I suppose. How does it change if you reupholster it? How does it change the chair other than the look? Obviously, it'll look different.
It just changes. I mean, you're updating the fabric, so that's.
It basically stays the
But
same.
you know, if you're
Do you replace cushions and stuff?
if they
That's
need
what I
it,
mean.
if they need it, and we'll replace it with the same type of cushion that they had prior to.
It's a really interesting craft, reupholstering, to me.
Oh, yeah.
Like it really. I wish in another life I was talented enough to do that, because it's cool.
You can definitely tell a really good upholsterer from a not so good upholsterer.
What would you look for?
What do I look
Yeah,
for?
like if you're
Oh my, straight welts, which is the piping on the cushion.
yeah.
If that's all wavy, pattern placement. There's just,
What do you mean pattern placement?
if you're putting a pattern on a piece of upholstery,
Right.
you want it to kind of what we call flow match. So it kind of all looks, the pattern flows from the top of the chair to the bottom.
That
So-
makes sense.
I
I mean,
get it. I don't think I would've thought
it
of
wouldn't
that.
make. I mean, like, the only time you would think about it, I suppose, is if it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
You're like, what's wrong with this thing?
Yeah. If you have a pattern that has a definite center, you want that on the back, you want that on the seat, and you want that on the front. You want it all to flow visually.
line up.
Mhm.
It all has to line up.
A gig line.
Called a flow match.
A flow match.
Flow match.
It sounds like heart medication.
Yeah, it does actually.
Causes mouth ulcers and
Do
confusion.
not take if you are allergic to the ingredients of flow
Yeah,
match.
exactly.
That's my favorite.
Really?
That's my favorite disclaimer.
I know.
Yeah, don't do this if you don't like it.
Or if
Yeah.
your body doesn't react, if your body reacts, don't take it. Well,
But we digress.
Yeah.
So the flow match is something I think you would like Joel said, if you're not necessarily thinking about it unless, well, if you're an upholsterer, you are, but like you and me, Joel, we're not
Right.
thinking of it unless it's
I
wrong.
am, because I'll hear about it if it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Are there a lot of single, like, you just piqued my my attention here. You're talking about when there's like a pattern.
Think
but
of like a floral pattern,
Yeah, like-
or
isn't that kind of old? That's not
that's
coming
still
around?
It's still, oh yeah,
Well, I was kind of wondering, like,
never
what-
gone
what-
away.
I'm assuming that there's kind of trends with that too, right? I mean, do you see more of one thing than another right now? Like, people go leather or
Yeah.
Leather's harder.
Floral
Leather is a difficult reupholstery from the cost aspect, because leather is not sold by the yard; it's sold by the square foot. So it's not always economical to reupholster leather.
Have you seen people go from leather to fabric on a?
No.
It's never. Is it different? Is it built differently?
No.
Okay. Which is,
Same construction. The cushion might be a little different.
but what I'm hearing you say is like you're either a leather person or you're not. If you're a
Oh.
leather person, you're probably not going back.
I love leather.
Well, but what
As
I'm
an
saying is you
accent,
don't
but-
see people go from leather to.
I see it the other way around.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you have a really high quality sofa or chair, and you're going from fabric to leather. Totally possible.
Totally
to do.
possible.
But you're saying it increases the cost.
Yes, it's expensive to buy leather.
But if,
You know, square foot and this average height is 55 square feet, and you might need 300 square feet to do.
wow.
So, yeah, not always economical, and it's a little more expensive because it's a harder material to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, right, because
It's leather.
it's leather. Yeah, you're not.
But we repurpose a lot of things. It's not just upholstery. I mean, you might have.
Well, let's talk about that when we come back. We're a little out of time. Next segment, we'll talk about the other things we refurbish on Measured Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors and Joel Graber from Graber Customer Modeling. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops, with the showroom now open in Granger right next to C. Kramer Interiors and Hoosier Hardwood Floors. Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. I just noticed, like, out of all the years we've been doing this, this is when the coffee kicks in, because I could see how long it takes me, and it was like, oh my gosh, slow down, Perugini. I was like, wow, just rattled through that. Hoosier Hardwood Floors deserves their time.
Yes, they do.
They're not just sponsors. They're
They're great
family.
people.
They're great people.
Great
With-
people.
And you use them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're,
Yep.
they're the
Chris just had him at his house yesterday.
I did.
oh boy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be fun for you, Chris.
That's going to be a blast. Can't wait.
Did you know that you can pull floors up and put them back down? I bet you didn't know that, did you? I'm talking to the audience. Sorry. You can, because you're going to do that.
I am.
Everything's possible. It's just money.
Well, but it would probably be a lot more expensive to replace your
I
floors than
Don't want to replace
Yeah.
200-year-old
No, I
No.
mean, come on.
floors.
because there's no price on it. Like there's
Oh, that's- yeah,
it's not possible to price it.
They're not even standard thickness. I mean, they're 1.25 inches thick.
If you were to replace that with something like, I can't even, you'd have to go get reclaimed wood and have it all milled, and it would just be,
Astronomical. This is old growth white oak tree or floors.
Yeah, that's and they're kind of the Dean and the guys. They're pretty much miracle workers with the ability to do that. You know,
They have suppliers that can do almost anything.
it's crazy because they're people who are listening right now are in houses that they have irreplaceable floors. They have to.
Right.
It kind of blows my mind though that 100 some years ago they were using 1.25 inches. You would think that.
well, it could just be that it's been sanded.
Yeah, that could be too, because they just, like Dean said, they just used what they had.
Interesting, because it just seems
All varying widths of lumber, and he goes, "I'm sure it's not kiln dried." And I said, "They probably didn't even know what that was."
they weren't
it was-
doing that.
Put in green and,
Yep,
oh yeah.
If it was put in green, what happens to the wood, Joel?
grain, wasn't it? Oh, you put in green.
Green,
Oh,
yeah.
doesn't it
Green.
move? And
It will move some, but it's so much harder than something that's kiln dried.
Because it slowly contracts. Is
Yeah, it
that-
has something to do with the drying process. I mean, that stuff's going to be harder anyway, just because of the graining
right.
being so much tighter.
Is oak super common for floors?
Mhm.
I mean, right now, even
Mhm.
today,
Yeah, it's
I'd say number one.
it's the most
for
common.
sure.
Okay, I don't
Mainly
know.
red oak. You see mainly red oak. You don't see a lot of necessarily white oak.
right.
Like
well,
white oak.
I do too.
Yeah, well, white oak.
Actually harder than
Mhm.
red oak.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. I mean, it's slow, super slow growth tree. Right, they're the giant trees, right? That you see the white oaks. Oh, King has arrived.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got him.
That's pretty funny. Anyway, we digress.
Yeah.
That is part of refurbish, though, because Chris is making a choice to not replace a floor, but to put it back.
Yeah.
But think about how warm you're going to be this winter when you're
Well,
the goal.
we'll see.
We learned so much about Chris's house. We're so invasive into his house
Yep.
here. It's like for us. But you said there are other things that you refurbish.
Oh yeah, I mean it's not just upholstery. I mean,
In my mind, that's all. That's like
No. Nope, you can take an old case piece and change hardware, paint it, update the
Explain
look.
a case
yeah.
piece.
I was like, he lost me a case piece.
Case goods. Case goods are wood pieces.
Did you not know that? I didn't know that.
Called a case good.
I did know that. I just figured people didn't know what
I
it
did
was.
not know that.
Yeah, anything that's made of wood is a case good.
Interesting. Anything made of
And
wood.
I'm sure there's a reason.
I'm
for
sure.
Because it's a case
Now
of wood.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to Google that at some point
Yeah.
today.
So your buffets, china cabinets, things like that, those can be repurposed too. So if it looks a little dated, they can be painted, change hardware. There's all kinds of things you can do to save them.
Your greatest challenge would be to take colonial furniture and make that happen. Remember from the 80s, the had the Eagles emblem on the drawer pulls. You know what I'm talking about?
Called Federal.
Federal. I knew there was a name. I don't know. Is that what it's called? Federal?
Yeah, if it got the Eagles on it, Federal
Yeah.
style.
Is that coming back in style?
Federal?
Yeah.
No.
Should.
Anything 18th century is
Not.
much not.
That's 18th century. But I remember
Federal?
in the
Yeah.
80s, like all the furniture was
Well,
like
it's based on colonial or based on 18th century design.
yeah, the Eagles.
The Federal period was after the Revolutionary War.
My daughter-in-law's house had eagles everywhere. Matter of fact, we would play Easter egg eagles. Like, oh, there's another eagle. Like they were everywhere. But the house is 1948.
Oh, they were built in that period.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lots of eagles. All the light plating, the plates were all eagles
Yeah,
in the whole
well-
house.
Yeah, the original motif was from the Federal period.
This was the British were coming in this house.
The
for
British
sure.
were gone at that.
They were gone.
Yeah.
Sorry, they were of 1812. I mean,
Well,
Oh,
that's
well.
true.
that was pre-federal period, right? 1812.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the Federal was right after the Revolutionary War. And we call it the Federal period. They basically what it is Georgian with a stripped down American version.
And Georgian means everything matches, right?
Very symmetrical.
Very symmetrical. Lots of
But they just took away a lot of the ornament on the front and interior.
right because probably didn't have it.
We wanted our own style.
There you go. And then you see that when you remodel, Joel. That I'm not talking necessarily federal, but when you're remodeling something, you do have to. It is a refurbishment, even if you're putting on a new addition,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't have that addition be like,
No, it has to look like it was there.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
you have to understand what it should look like.
right. And so, what are some aspects though that bleed over? Like, how do you make a new room look like it's been there the whole time?
Well, I mean, a lot of what stuff Chris talks about is the architectural elements of the original. So, did one a couple years ago where windows had to match. The windows needed to look like the old windows. So you have to match. If it's a 6/6 or whatever it is, and then your mullions have to at least be very close.
Right.
Different, the soffits, fascia, boards, things like that need to match. It needs to flow. Otherwise, it's going to look like it doesn't belong there.
Right.
Got that porch you did?
That was that's not what I was thinking of, but yeah.
Because that's where there wasn't. I mean, the original porch was gone.
Yeah.
But you took the architecture of the house and rebuilt that porch. That was really
Right.
cool.
Yeah.
Right.
So it looked like it was
Always there.
always there.
Well, we did have a picture of the original porch.
But that helps, right?
Oh yeah.
But you didn't copy it exactly.
No.
It's funny a new room, like a new addition, I've seen it where you can't miss it. It's like, that's clearly an addition. Look at that.
Yeah,
like this was like a Lego piece put on like different color though, but then you go into some, and I'm thinking in South Bend, those tiny homes that all the hallways have arches. You know what I'm talking about? They're like plaster, and instead of like being squared off, they're like rounded all over the house. I was in a house a month ago that they added, basically, they almost doubled their floor plan. You couldn't tell. You could not tell.
It was done well.
Yeah.
It was really done well.
Yeah.
And it was her father, who's a carpenter, did it for her, and would have probably cost her the equal what the house was worth to do it. But dads, they do stuff.
Yeah.
But it was like, I was amazed. And I feel like it was him making that look like that, but whoever plastered or finished the walls, that was the person that really brought it home.
Yeah,
really.
Those finishes can make a huge difference. Matching something that was original it's a special talent.
It was pretty amazing to look at, like where you couldn't.
And there's just not many people that do it anymore. I mean, there's a guy that I'm hanging on to, and I'm trying to keep him from retiring, at least just to do stuff for me.
Right.
I won't give his name.
I know who it is.
Yeah, Chris knows, but
it might have been the same
guy. I thought he
guy.
was working for some other place on his Facebook page.
Uh-oh.
no.
Drama.
I need to have him back over
Yeah.
to fix my ceiling.
And
He gave me a quote a couple years ago.
but it is pretty that person, this person that you're talking about, and then the person that did this house, they clearly understood what they were looking at.
I mean, we're talking about refurbishing, and we have to. You can refurbish almost anything.
When we come back, let's go into that. This is Measure Twice. We're gonna come back and we're gonna get to Chris's thought. Don't forget it. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Joel Graber from Graber Customer Modeling and Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops, with the showroom now open in Granger, right next to C. Kramer Interiors. And Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. We're talking about refurbishing. Basically, we didn't talk about keeping it. We've only talked about refurbish, but you don't have to throw everything away. Some things can be redone. And Chris, I had to interrupt you because we ran out of time. What were you bringing up?
That almost anything can be repurposed or reused, repurposed into something different.
Right.
So windows can be repurposed.
Repurposed?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
What is it?
I love it when people want to get rid of their windows, because especially like certain sizes, I have them on my barn, on my old barn. We have an old milk house, and I just about have the windows I need to turn it into a greenhouse for my wife.
Really?
Yeah.
Or you could even take an old window and take the parts of that old window and rebuild a window.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about rebuilding, and it still blows my mind that you can rebuild it. It just really does blow my mind. I just don't
Well, it's
understand.
basically, essentially what they're doing is just getting a custom-made window out of the old window.
Yeah.
Right, because the sizes are different.
Because, or you have to have an old window. You can't put a new window in.
Right.
A lot of these repurposing things it goes back to what I'm living in, because I can't just go out and buy something new to put on the house. I have to have everything repurposed.
Mm-hmm.
Or built.
They're taking that right now. Yeah, they want to take my old windows out, take them apart, and custom make new windows
Out of the ones that were already there.
out of the ones that are already there. But I want to change the style to match the other original part of the house. But
Right.
anyway,
And you could do that with the windows they're taking out?
Yep.
Like, so they take...
They'll
That
take-
was most of the parts,
they'll
right?
take the
There'll be
glass.
some that they'd have to replace.
Yeah, well, the rotten parts
Yeah.
they'll have to replace, but they'll replace it with old growth or whatever other parts of windows that they've collected.
I think that, I mean, like rebuilt windows, man, that's awesome.
You are really excited about
I get
that.
excited. I think it's awesome.
But I just think it's also a great idea to take old windows and turn it into a greenhouse. I mean, there's just things don't have to be thrown away.
I'd seen a friend of mine had gotten a hold of like an old, it was, I don't know what it was out of. It was a really big old window, and he did some work on it and made it into a headboard.
Oh, that's...
It was awesome.
Wow.
Think about cherry pickers. That's what they do every
that's
day.
That's
They're
the whole...
the ultimate repurposing company.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're leaving the most obvious repurpose or refurbished, like doors. And the reason why I bring that up is I was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania a while back. I'm going back.
That's where I was born.
Really?
Yep.
I'll be there tomorrow. No, tonight. I'll be there. We're driving there tonight. But I was in downtown. This is an old town. This is old.
Mhm.
This is like 1600s old.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you look at the doors of the homes, and they're only like 28 inches. I don't know if they're 20, but they're thin, like
Narrow, yeah.
narrow is the better word. Thank you, Joel.
People used to be smaller.
Yes, quite a bit.
It's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
Look at an old stair rail, an old stairway when they're like
Yeah.
this high,
Yeah.
and you're like,
What's this high? This high being waist high. He has his name.
or I don't know. I was just using my hand, but you can noticeably below code now.
Yeah.
It's because people were much shorter
Yeah,
than we are now,
we're hunched over from just having to work in.
or killing themselves.
Yeah, just getting worn to a nub is really what was going on there. But I thought it was cool because I saw some, and this whole show idea for me came from this. There are row homes there that clearly were refurbished because, and they were probably from the 1800s. Okay, probably not
new construction.
to that place. Yeah, like brand new. Hey, youngster. Okay, so what I saw over and over again was clearly they took two of the narrow doors and made double doors out of them.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I passed a store, and it's gonna rhyme, but not on purpose. But it was just called Old Doors, and it was just door. Like I didn't stop. I mean, we were driving by, but it was, kind of like a little storefront, and you look in there, and there had to be. I could see 300 doors probably just looking as I drove by. There were doors everywhere.
That's
and to
cool.
the old door store.
Really cool.
That is cool.
That is cool.
And I thought it was just a brilliant idea to make double doors out of these two narrow doors.
Yeah.
And then I began to see them everywhere. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a thing here.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool. And those row homes, you could see you could just identify the ones that had, torn out the walls of the next row home to make one big one.
That's because in today's world, you're not getting anything in and out of a narrow door.
No.
No, or through a window because
Yeah.
they're also not big. And if you've been to Lancaster lately, you'd love the windows if you're a window nerd because they're all old windows and the big plate glass windows. Like, so you'd have like a storefront, like an old timey 5 and dime storefront with a 100-year-old piece of glass in it. I'm like, oh my gosh, if that broke,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it's like, whew, that's got to be pretty pricey to replace. Does anybody make old glass anymore?
So yeah, you can. Well,
You can't make old glass.
But I mean, in the style of old glass,
you can get it
Close.
very similar, but it's not the same.
Not the same.
because there's no lead in it.
It's
right?
way too refined.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's basically it, right? There's lead in the old glass, right? I don't know how. I'm above my pay grade here.
I'm not
talking about it.
100%. I mean, it's just
That's
the
crystal.
process too.
Lead in glass is crystal.
Is that what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You have
See,
to
I
have-
knew you'd know the answer.
You have to have 24% lead content to qualify as crystal.
So you don't want to be doing shots out of those glasses.
No. I don't think there's lead in glass. like window pane glass.
Well, I know this is off topic. Are you telling me if you buy Crystal right now, there's lead in it?
24% lead content.
Why
Yeah,
am I
but
drinking anything out of that?
It's not
Once it goes together, it changes the compound.
You're not gonna get lead poisoning.
I can't lose IQ points, fellas.
Yeah.
I need them all.
You're not losing. You're not getting lead poisoning from.
Okay, I didn't want to throw that out there. Scared me because I drink out of nothing but Crystal. No.
Oh, I was gonna say, with its pinky out.
Only Crystal. That's it. That's my thing. No, but that I just noticed that, and then I thought, wow, what an obvious refurbishment. If you have the choice, if you have a great door,
Yeah.
you can redo it.
Yeah.
You can or use it in something else. A la Cherry Pickers. I'm sure they have 50 versions of doors that they've turned into something else.
Probably more than 50.
Probably more than 50. But
I've seen headboards made out of old doors.
Mm-hmm.
do we still see narrow doors around here around our neighborhood, around where we live?
I mean, not like entry doors. You'll have it for
Interior doors.
certain parts of interior, but mostly closets and things like that.
I didn't think so because it's like I'm kind of noticing that now, and it's like even in our older neighborhoods, they kind of have normal size entryways. It's kind of funny or odd that in that part of the country, I'm sure other parts of the country share that. There's so many houses that are 150 years old that are just together, and like you'll be in a modern street. And across the street, there's a modern skyscraper made of glass. And then across the street from it is a house that was built in 1780 that's still there. People are living in it.
Yep.
And they're tiny, tiny. What's the average height of a 2-story home? And just off the top of your head, the tip of the peak to the ground.
Now or
now, if they're building a house and it's 2 stories.
Yeah, that's difficult. Probably.
Is it
probably 30, 32 feet.
So it's about a telephone pole, right? If you about that high,
Yeah.
It's about 30 feet. I bet they're 20 feet in those old homes. I was looking at 2-story homes. I'm like, how's that even 2
Those
stories?
Quakers, man.
I'm serious. I'm serious. I'm like, that second
So
floor
simple.
must be only 6 feet. Right?
Could be. Maybe 7.
Really? Yeah. And you could see like even the windows are shrunk down.
Yeah.
Everything is like, this is like the custom. No wonder every 40 feet there's a refurbished store
Yeah.
because every house is like doing that. And then I saw the siding. There's a siding company that advertised barn siding, because if you go to Lancaster, you're going to see a barn.
Lancaster.
Sorry. Lancaster. Yes. But when we come back, let's bring it home with new.
All right.
This is Metro Twice.
Oh, coffee's kicking in.
Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors and Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We are brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops, with a showroom now open in Granger next to C. Kramer Interiors and Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. We're talking about refurbishing and using new, but mostly refurbishing. And then Chris, while we're off air, went on a rabbit hole looking at Lancaster County, Pennsylvania.
I did.
It's pretty amazing.
It is
isn't
pretty.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Very pretty place. It's green and very Amish.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's the capital.
I mean, you got your hot spots.
You got your hot spots.
That's one of them.
Yeah, there's one in Ohio too. I can't think of the name
Holmes
of it.
County.
Yeah, which is cool. But Lancaster is definitely tied to the founding of the country. Like it's tied to that. There's a lot of
Beautiful architecture.
lots of stone structures there too. And off air, Joel and I were discussing that these giant barns built with fieldstone and no mortar.
Isn't that amazing?
Just stacked. But they're really amazing. And they do a really good job there. Now we'll get off Lancaster in a second, but they do a really good job of keeping the heritage architecturally when they need to. So you don't see a lot of like modern barns off the road. You'll see them in the background because it's giant farmland out there, and you can see that internally in the farm there's modern silos and barns, but these farmers kind of get it, and so they maintain their old farms, and that's kudos to them, first of all, for not being a corporate farm and keeping them in families, but they really get it. It's a beautiful area.
Yep,
beautiful area. And on a side note, it's the worst driving place in the world because all the roads were created around people's properties.
Yep.
So you want to talk about switchbacks? There's S-turns everywhere. And
hills.
Yeah. I'm surprised there's not a Grand Prix run there because it's just like you're just zigzagging all over the place. So anyway.
You'd have to dodge the Amish.
You do have to dodge the Amish.
It wasn't designed for cars.
Not at all. Not at all. They have the old if you come to a stop street and it's so angled that you might have to get out of your car and look down the road to see if somebody's coming. Wow. Because you know, but great place. But the architecture, we talked about refurbishing, but when you have to give up and get something new, right? That takes the same amount of eye, planning, and talent and craftsmanship to make it look like it's been there.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, just as cool as refurbishing because you're just doing it right. We talk about doing it right. You know, how do you know you have somebody skilled enough to do that? If somebody has a project and they're using somebody, what are some of the things they should look at to know that this person can do this? And I don't mean age. You can't look at me like, well, this person's 12 years old, so they don't know. Not that. Like,
I wouldn't hire a 12-year-old.
Not for that. But what are some of the things that you would look for? What would you ask them to show you to prove that they could do it?
Well, I mean, maybe some of their history as far as like some of the other projects they've done that it might be similar or have some of the same components.
Like a portfolio, maybe. Like, did they show you a picture?
Being able to talk through like some of the issues that you might run into.
The way they're explaining the process to you, you get confidence. You know that they know what they're talking about and what they're doing. So, I mean, like, oh, if we do this, here's what you need to do, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh, I didn't know you could do that.
It's be cautious of somebody who can't explain what they're going to do.
Exactly. If they can't explain to you what's the process, I'm kind of leery.
What sounds like an important question to ask somebody who's doing that is, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And then...
Well, I mean, we're working on a place it's an old post and beam frame house. I mean, old. It must have been like, I don't know if there's like a lumber baron or something that had owned it on the St. Joe River up in Michigan. But yeah, they're to a point where a lot of it has to be new, but we were able to repurpose some beams for structure.
Right.
And so being able to talk through that and explain how you're going to do that, the people, they want to know that you know that. Yeah,
and
yeah.
They may not, you might not. So if you're listening and you're like, well, I don't even know what the right answer would be. It's like, really, you don't have to know what the right answer would be. You need to hear the information
right
conveyed to you. And then you'll know, and then you'll be able to see it is really what you're getting at it. But if a person's like, no, we just know how to do it.
Yeah.
That should be a red flag.
We'll figure it out,
Yeah. We'll figure it out. It's my favorite.
As we go.
That's my favorite red flag.
Yeah.
We'll just figure it out. I'm like,
don't think so.
I don't know.
I mean, there are some things that you just have to figure out. Like you run into something in a wall and you're like, oh, I guess we're going to have to figure this out. That's one thing. But if you're figuring out like structure or
if you're
something that's specific, like that that's unique to your home or that not just anybody can do, knowing that they are competent in doing it is probably a positive. I'm going to YouTube it.
If you see your contractor YouTubing
Hang on a
how
minute.
to,
Yeah.
hold on, I got to get my this old house subscription going. Hang on, like that might be a red flag.
That's a red flag. Yeah.
But
Hey,
like,
there's nothing wrong with that. Watching you, This Old House.
No.
That's always been my favorite show.
no, that's I learned roofing by watching them roof something on there several times. And the accents on that show are priceless.
YouTube is helpful for certain things. I mean,
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, just to give you some basic tips and information, it's great. But I'm not a skilled carpenter.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there's times I like to go on and just see if there's somebody doing something different. You
Right.
know, like if they, or just to confirm that, like this is how we've always done this, but is this the best way to do it?
I'm assuming, other than code changes, there's not a lot of publications that keep carpenters informed of new technology. Like, isn't that like the job of your vendors? Like,
A lot of times
they
the
kind of
vendors
do that, right?
are helping keep you up on that. Yeah.
So more than many industries, you probably have to really like do that. You said, like you have to seek out like what's changing and what's
Mhm.
different and what's
Is there anything new in carpentry as far as the skill set goes? I mean, isn't it pretty much
the skill set. Probably not.
the skill set wouldn't change? I wouldn't imagine.
No, I mean, that's, no, the things that change are the technology. And that will
maybe
change maybe how you do some things,
like tools or
tools and the materials.
new materials.
Yeah, it's kind of a friend of mine that owns another old house in South Bend. When she redid her kitchen, she loves it, but she was dissatisfied with the way it felt because it was so new.
Mhm.
Even though they made it look old, but she's like, this room doesn't feel like the other room.
It's
Isn't
so
that
fresh.
wild? Yeah, isn't that
Yeah.
wild? Like she's
Yeah.
like, it looked like if you were to shut your eyes and come in this room and not have to feel it, just look at it, you're like, wow. But she's like, there's definitely a different feel.
There's a disconnect for the rest of the house
Yeah.
because it's so new.
And
Yeah.
it's probably like you've talked about a million times, Joel. It's like it'll take her a while to get used to it, and that's probably what's going on.
And with time and age and things, it'll start to develop its own patina.
And she tried to keep everything. It's kind of. I just thought of this now, though. She tried to keep so much, but it was just not possible. It was termite damage in the kitchen.
Oh boy.
Oh
yeah.
boy, yep.
Yeah, that's so scary. I don't even like saying them out loud. 'Cause
No.
It's like, ooh, I don't want to draw them
And the
in.
thing is it's a misconception. It's just people are like, oh, it's like fleas, it's dirty or whatever. No, it's not at all.
No, that's not their
Like you can pick them up at a high-end hotel.
termites. You really should have your house checked at least every other year, but
Yeah.
yearly.
If you
can.
have a wood house, you should probably.
Yeah, for sure, because they will refurbish your house for you. And this has been Measure Twice. Thanks for listening.
Podcasts by Federated Media.